Walt Disney Studios is one of the most successful entertainment companies in the world, with so many different subsidiary companies and some of the highest grossing movies in history. The company's dominance in the industry is undeniable, but it wasn't always like that. In today's video, we'll take a deep dive into how Disney grew to the giant it is today and how the company ended up owning other companies you probably didn't even know were under the Disney umbrella today. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. Created by Walt Disney, the man, the legend, Disney Studios has a long and taunting history that plays to its dominance in the industry today. Walt Disney started his creative career working under a commercial art studio back in 1919 after returning as a veteran from World War I. He met a fellow animator and artist, Ub Iwerks, and not only did the pair work together, they would also go on to be great friends who successfully built an empire together. It wasn't long after they met that both men founded their own company, Laugh-O-Gram Studios, and began producing their animations and stories. But the company wasn't much of a success and ended up going bankrupt in 1923. Walt ended up moving to Los Angeles, where he was joined by his brother Roy and Iwerks. They created an animation series called Alice's Wonderland, and this began their road to success. The animation series was picked up by a distributor who offered to circulate the work while Walt and his company handled the creative aspect. This marked the start of the Disney Company in 1923, originally known as the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio, with both brothers having equal ownership. The company would soon change to Walt Disney Studio at Roy's request. All seemed to be going well for the young company until 1927, when Walt decided to expand the business with the addition of a new animated character, Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit. It was then he discovered that he didn't own the rights to the new character. Instead, the distributor did. To add salt to the injury, Walt also learned that most of the animators in the original company who he thought were loyal to him were actually on the distributor's payroll. Upon checking his contract, Walt realized he had signed away his rights to the new character to the distributor, who was laying the groundwork for a devious plan to continue producing the cartoon at another studio for less money behind Walt Disney's back. This was a painful lesson in Walt Disney's life, one that taught him to pay attention to the business aspect of the company as well. Following the loss of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, Walt needed a new character for his studio, and that new character was the legendary Mickey Mouse. The first short movie was Mickey Mouse as the main character, Steamboat Willie, and was an immediate success and got many great reviews in 1928. Following the success, Walt Disney went to work on creating a new cartoon called A Silly Symphony. Which would win an Academy Award for Best Cartoon in 1932. An award category started based on the success of Disney cartoons. Disney Studio branched out into merchandising based on the Mickey Mouse character, and soon there were Mickey Mouse pencils, books, dolls, and all manner of figurines available in the United States. Disney continued to push the boundaries of animation and business with the release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937. The movie was again a great success with great reviews, and in no time, it became the highest-grossing movie in the world. World War II came around, and the entire industry was affected, with productions like Bambi, Dumbo, and Pinocchio incurring great production costs but seeing very little profit. It would take Disney almost 10 years to return from the slumps of the war, and the release of Treasure Island and Cinderella in 1950 marked the studio's return to the limelight. Walt was never one to sit on success. Instead, he always looked for new ways to bring imagination to life. With his television productions and motion pictures blossoming into huge successes, he needed a new addition to his company. And an idea came after he took his daughters to carnivals and zoos and could only stand by and watch them have all the fun. Being bored out of his mind, Walt wished for a place where parents could have fun rides with their kids, and the idea for Disneyland was born. The project was so massive it took Walt Disney restructuring his company and even taking out loans from his own life insurance to get Disneyland up and running. In the end, it was all worth it when the park opened in July 1955. During the opening ceremony of Disneyland, Walt Disney said, "Disneyland would never be completed as long as there was imagination left in the world."
Disneyland is your land, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
A statement remaining true to this day, as there's new additions to the park every other day. But while the 60s was hugely successful for Walt Disney Studios, it marked the end of an era, as Walt Disney passed away in December 1966. This marked the start of a new era. Although Walt Disney had passed, the company pushed on with its vision, and his brother Roy Disney took over the leadership of the company. Many doubted the ability of the company to produce great films and cartoons with Walt out of the picture, but Roy proved them wrong with the release of The Jungle Book in 1967. Under Roy's leadership, the company expanded yet again and opened the Walt Disney World Project, an amusement park in Florida in 1971. But tragedy struck again, as Roy himself passed away later that same year. Following Roy Disney's death, a team of Walt Disney executives, all trained by the Disney brothers, took over the reins and did their best to further expand the company into new industries and even other parts of the world. By 1983, a new Disneyland had opened in Tokyo, making it the first foreign park. The new management also supervised the building and completion of the Epcot Center, one of Walt's last projects before he died, and both were widely successful, with Tokyo's Disneyland receiving as many as 11 million visitors in its first year. While the company remained ahead in the parks and amusement centers around the world, the movie-making business was not looking good, as audiences were leaning towards more teenage and adult markets, and demand for family movies was on a slow decline. To match the competition, Disney launched Touchstone Pictures with the release of Splash in 1984. By doing so, the company managed to maintain its relevance in the industry. At that time, Disney was also able to fight off 2 hostile takeovers, thereby managing to keep the company's business in-house. A new sense of direction was birthed in the company after surviving hostile takeovers with Disney's entrance into cable television. Disney launched the Disney Channel in 1983, and the paid TV service aired exclusive films from the Disney library as well as other featured shows. Some of the Disney classics were soon released in video cassettes and reached all-time high sales. The end of the 80s was amazing for the company, with all its major releases like Pretty Woman, Good Morning Vietnam, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids all passing the $100 million mark at the box office. Disney also acquired several television companies as well as hundreds of stores to boost the sales of its merchandise. The start of the 90s were some of the best years for Disney, with the release of The Little Mermaid in 1990, which was the highest-grossing film of the year. The Little Mermaid was only surpassed by Beauty and the Beast in 1991, which in turn was surpassed by Aladdin in 1992. In this time, Disney ventured into publishing by creating Hyperion Books and Disney Press to handle the production and sales of children's books and other Disney publications. The company also made its way into Broadway with stage productions of some of its most successful shows. Disney also made its biggest acquisition to date and the second largest in U.S. history when it acquired #1 television network ABC Network for $19 billion. The acquisition bought all subsidiaries of ABC to Disney, which included 21 radio stations, 10 TV stations, 4 cable networks, and 7 newspaper publications. The acquisition made Disney the undisputed media powerhouse, not just in the U.S., but all over the world. As expected, the rest of the 90s consisted of a string of constant rising successes at the box office, with the release of The Lion King in 1994, a movie that went on to become the highest-grossing movie of all time. The box office domination continued with the release of Pocahontas in 1995, The Hunchback of Notre Dame in 1996, Hercules in 1997, Mulan in 1998, Tarzan in 1999, and then Fantasia in 2000. By the start of the new millennia, Disney had over 750 stores worldwide, over 20 different amusement parks across the globe, 2 luxury cruise ships running the Caribbean, and a television and cable presence that was unrivaled. It kick-started the millennia with the release of animated movies like Lilo and Stitch, The Emperor's New Groove, and Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Disney became the first studio in history to surpass $3 billion in the global box office with the release of Pirates of the Caribbean and Finding Nemo, both of which made over $300 million each at the box office. ABC had a widely successful decade with the release of iconic shows like Lost, Grey's Anatomy, and Desperate Housewives. And the Disney Channel was not left behind with its own release of High School Musical in 2006. Disney made its first acquisition of the century by purchasing Pixar Animation Studios in 2006 with the release of Monsters Incorporated and Cars. Its second biggest acquisition of the century was the purchase of Marvel Entertainment in 2009, which would release its critically acclaimed Avengers franchise. When Disney showed interest in spicing up its newest park in Hawaii with trending on-screen characters not under the Disney umbrella company, the management in charge went ahead to purchase the rights to the Avatar franchise in 2011, making it a part of the theme park attractions. Disney proved it was still the leading company in animated movies with the release of Up, which won 2 Oscars, and the global phenomenon that was Frozen in 2013. By 2019, Disney had made its way into the digital world completely, and this was marked with the release of the Play Disney app, which introduced a new way to explore and listen to all Disney theme parks around the world. The company went on to a major acquisition and release spree in 2019, starting with the acquisition of 20th Century Fox and Hulu, as well as major partnerships with ESPN. To add all these amazing money moves, Disney also launched widely successful Disney Plus, in conjunction with all its other subsidiary companies, which now included Marvel, Pixar, 20th Century Fox, Lucasfilms, Searchlight Pictures, National Geographic, and Star Wars. Disney Plus was created with the aim of delivering Disney's incredible stories straight to its dedicated viewers all over the world. For almost a century, Walt Disney's company has delivered the largest number of iconic shows and movies in history to viewers, and it all started with one man's dream and the dedication of those around him. Worth over $270 billion today, Disney has continued to provide timeless entertainment through its movies and parks to families worldwide. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget, subscribe and activate those notifications for more inspiring videos. Cheers!